The NBA has this strange habit of going quiet right before it explodes, and right now the silence feels heavy, like the air before a storm that everyone knows is coming, but nobody can predict where it will hit. People keep asking if the chaos is coming in February, and the truth is it probably is not. This feels like a summer story, a slow burn that suddenly turns into a wildfire. And yet there is this wild feeling that something could break loose any day now. Maybe next week, maybe tomorrow. Because all it takes is one phone call, one report, one superstar deciding that enough is enough. And the name hanging over everything right now is Giannis. The idea of Giannis asking out of Milwaukee still feels unreal, but it also feels closer than it ever has before. Years of loyalty, years of pressure, years of carrying expectations that grow heavier every season. If that request ever becomes public, the entire league tilts on its axis. Every front office scrambles. Every plan changes. Every fan base starts dreaming. The Eastern Conference suddenly feels like the most logical landing spot, because the balance of power could shift without forcing him to uproot his entire competitive world. Teams start measuring their assets not by potential, but by proximity to a deal that could redefine their future. And while Giannis dominates the imagination, he is not alone. Anthony Davis quietly looms as the other massive domino waiting to fall. Dallas has been better lately. Not great, but better. 6 wins in 10 games. Enough to create false hope. Enough to make standing still feel tempting. Flagg has been electric. Young players have had moments. The offense looks alive at times. But the reality is brutal. This team sits at the edge of relevance. Kyries' future is uncertain. Derrick Lively is done for the season. And trying to stretch this version of the Mavericks any further feels like denial. The cleanest path forward is also the hardest. You trade Anthony Davis, you sink in the standings. You give yourself the best possible lottery odds. You chase the chance at Flagg, and you accept that the Luka-shaped hole cannot be patched with half measures. The market is already whispering names: Toronto, Detroit, Atlanta. And just like with Giannis, the East feels like the right place for an ad deal. Atlanta stands out. It keeps standing out. There is something about their roster construction that feels unfinished in a way that invites a bold move. Anthony Davis next to Trae Young, next to Jalen Johnson, creates a strange but intriguing balance. Defense would harden. The ceiling would rise. And unlike a Giannis deal, there is a world where Atlanta does not have to gut its core. You can imagine a framework built around Kristaps Porzingis' salary matching draft capital in young pieces. Porzingis is hurt again, which complicates things, but he is an expiring contract. Dallas would clear money. They would gain flexibility. They would take a swing on a high upside wing like Zachary Reisaker. Picks sweeten the deal. It is not perfect, but it is clean. And clean matters when the alternative is drifting. Atlanta would almost certainly refuse to include Jalen Johnson. Milwaukee would demand him in a Giannis trade, which is why that deal feels harder. But Anthony Davis feels attainable in a way that Giannis does not. Detroit and Toronto feel less convincing. Detroit is young and thriving. You do not blow that up for an injury-prone star entering his mid-30s. The spacing would collapse. Cade Cunningham needs oxygen, not traffic. Toronto has similar issues. Barnes and Davis together sounds intimidating defensively, but the floor would shrink. Ingram is not a shooter. Poeltl clogs the lane. The math does not work. Atlanta keeps coming back into focus. And hovering above all of this is Trae Young himself. The Hawks are winning without him. Not dominating, but surviving. Hanging around the top of the East, 1 game away from Boston, and the front office has never sounded fully committed to paying him long-term. They cannot let him walk for nothing. That is not how this league works anymore. A Trae Young trade feels real. The hard part is finding the landing spot. Orlando made sense before Desmond Bane. Cleveland could swap dynamics with Garland. Charlotte could do something wild with LaMelo. Minnesota desperately needs a real point guard. Phoenix always lurks, but lacks appealing assets. Maybe it takes 3 teams. Maybe Harden ends up in Atlanta, while pieces scatter elsewhere. It sounds insane. But the NBA has felt unhinged ever since Luka got moved. The impossible is now just unlikely. And then there are the Clippers, a team that should be selling, but never truly does. They owe their pick to Oklahoma City. They just opened a new arena. Steve Ballmer hates losing more than he hates logic. 6 wins, 19 losses, and still resistance to blowing it up. But the market would love Ivica Zubac. Boston would sprint to the phone. Pair him with a healthy Tatum, and suddenly the Celtics feel inevitable. Indiana makes sense too. A future without Miles Turner demands a new anchor. Zubac fits. Even teams like Orlando, Toronto, or Golden State could talk themselves into it. Golden State especially needs size. Small ball has limits. The question is whether the Clippers would ever send him to a rival. Probably not. But the East feels open. Harden and Kawhi are trickier. Older, expensive, often unavailable. But Harden has been good. Kawhi, when healthy, still looks like Kawhi. There's always a desperate team willing to gamble. The odds are low, but they are not zero. If the Clippers keep losing, the pressure builds. Even Ballmer has a breaking point. Meanwhile, New Orleans stares into an uncomfortable future without control of its own picks. They have talent. They have questions. Zion, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones all generate calls. Herb, especially. Every contender wants a defender like him. Lakers, Celtics, Clippers, Bucks, everyone checks in. Injuries complicate his value, but that might actually make him attainable. Trey Murphy costs more. Too much, maybe. Zion is the hardest puzzle. Still effective when he plays. Still young. Still unreliable. Chicago feels like the kind of team that would talk itself into that risk. It would not be smart, but it would be very Bulls. And speaking of Chicago, Coby White is quietly one of the most useful guards in the league. Any team lacking scoring punch wants him. Minnesota would love him, but matching money is tough. 3-team deals always loom as theoretical solutions. Nikola Vucevic feels movable. Jonathan Kuminga feels inevitable. He is stapled to the bench. The Warriors know it. The league knows it. He cannot be traded until mid-January, but the clock is ticking. His contract forces a larger deal. The question is who believes in him enough to pay that price? Cleveland might be the wild card. They are fine, but not convincing. Injuries explain some of it, but not all. Being 1 game behind Boston does not tell the whole story. The vibes feel off. A shakeup would not shock anyone. Sacramento lives in rumor purgatory. Sabonis, Levine, DeRozan, Monk Ellis. Names float without clarity. Keon Ellis feels like the most universally useful. Lakers need him. Clippers could use him. Everyone wants a low-cost defender who can shoot. Big contracts are harder to move. Value is unclear. New York wants bench help. Boston wants a big. Detroit might sniff around a win-now move without mortgaging the future. Miami will chase Giannis because Miami always chases stars. Brooklyn could move Cam Thomas. Cheap scoring always has a market. Memphis is stabilized. Yeah, trade talk fades. Utah wants to compete again. Markkanen stays. And when you step back and look at it all, the picture becomes clear. This is not about one trade. It is about tension, pressure. Front offices feeling the weight of choices they have avoided. The league feels restless. One move will trigger another. A superstar shifts and the ripple spreads. This is how summers are defined. Not by one headline, but by the chain reaction that follows. Fans sense it. Executives sense it. Players feel it in the way conversations change behind closed doors. The NBA trade market is not just heating up. It is coiling, waiting. And when it finally snaps,